Welcome back, guys. Cody here with Don on the Out of Bounds Sports Podcast. Today we got a little bit of a different style of video than our normal predictions, results, kind of things like that. Today we'll be talking about a hugely controversial topic in the sports world, and that is the equal pay for both men and women when it comes to sports. So we've got some compelling arguments on both sides. We've got maybe some informative information for the people that aren't too aware of, the finer details of what maybe mainstream media is not really putting out there. I'm excited for this one. This might get a little heated, so yeah, we'll see you in there. All right, guys. So, one of the reasons that Don and I actually started this podcast was him and I will just be, out in the backyard, shooting the shit, talking about sports. He gives his opinion, I give my opinion. We're from different generations, Don was born in the prehistoric era. I'm more of a Gen Z, so millennial type. So, obviously I'm always right, but we always got to give Don, we wanted to give Don, a platform to announce his thoughts and give a little bit of input. So
and that is the problem with Gen Z. Just ask them, and they will tell you they're always right.
But yeah, we wanted to kind of just document this. Sometimes our debates get heated. Sometimes we're on the same side. Sometimes we're on the opposite side. Sometimes we come together in the middle. And so this is one of those topics that I can say for me personally, I did a lot of research. I've followed it. I've followed sports, so it's kind of always been there. And it's something that I can see both sides of the argument, and so can Don. I know Don can as well. Can see both sides of the argument. I lean heavily towards one. Sometimes I lean heavily towards the other on other days. There's always different information that's being inputted, but there's also a lot of information that, isn't really clear or isn't very accurate. And so when you're coming with topics like this, it's important to have all the details and all the information because you can spit all these different big headline news things being like, women aren't getting paid the same as men. How is this fair? Blah, blah, blah. And, historically, women, unfortunately, have gotten the shorter end of the stick with a lot of, in all career paths. I think you can agree with that. For some, women were oppressed for a long time. And so, in the last 6 years that we've been alive, in general, they've come a long way in terms of being, getting their own right, getting equal rights and all that stuff. And that's how it should be. We should be looked at as equals. And so when we talk about the equal pay in sports, it's not that men are better than women. And it's not some people can use the argument biologically, and this is true to a point. Biologically, men are stronger, faster, right? And so it does make them better at sports, but that's not the reason that they're getting paid more. And so there's a lot of different avenues you can go, but I just want to kick it off with that. Open it up. We've got some interesting topics. So Don, why don't you start us off here and let us know kind of where your stance is, what you think, and yeah.
Okay, I will start off by saying that, some of the things I will be saying are not aimed at all women. I know plenty of them that know how sports works, how things are, but there are that percentage, the feminists, that just kick and scream, equal this, equal that. Those ones are delusional. Now, let's just have a look at, first of all, historically. Okay? So, if we look at men's professional hockey, started in 1917. Okay?
Yep.
For the women's hockey, 1999.
Yeah.
Okay? So, we're talking 80 plus years difference. where the men didn't start off or with 18,000 people there. They started off with like 10 people around a pond and built up the audience.
Yeah, and they've in that 80 years worth of built. Yeah.
Yes. In basketball, the gal started in 1978. He kind of pooped out and then picked up again.
Yeah, I was gonna say because they're around 27 years.
The guys started in 1898. Again, not with packed stadiums. They built a following. Okay? Soccer. Let's talk about the World Cup. The men's World Cup started in 1930. The women started in 1991.
Yeah.
Again, they had to build the fan base. For some reason, women think that they should automatically have a fan base. No, it's not how that works. The men got the fan base they have because it was built. And if you don't want to spend the time to do the same thing, then you guys are going to have this same problem over and over again. The other point is the people who support the sports. If you watch any major sporting event, talking hockey, basketball, soccer, baseball, you'll see a guy and a gal, either his spouse or his girlfriend, or the family, or the guy's out with a whole bunch of other guys, right? More often than not, who do you think's paying for those tickets?
The guys.
The guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so they are taking their hard-earned money to support their teams. They're at home watching them on TV so that all of these TV stations are earning cash from ads because the men are watching. Okay? And it seems to me that the expectation is, instead of the ladies going out and paying to support their own teams, seeing them live, they want the men now to bring the wives to these games and support that. No. If you want support it yourself.
Yeah, that is a big thing. Like the percentage of fans, the percentage of like genders that are at each game. It's predominantly men for both sports.
Yeah,
and the women are the one that are saying, like like they're wanting more and more and more, but the women aren't there supporting the women either, right? Like
it all comes down to, instead of bitching and complaining about, oh, this isn't fair, it's not equal pay, get off your asses, get off the sofa, go down to these events, spend your hard-earned money, and support your teams, and watch how fast they start making more money.
Yeah, because that's a big thing too, right? Like there's many like an NBA stadium or arena. They can charge more and they can fill bigger arenas because people are willing to go pay, whether it's men or women, are willing to pay those prices to go and fill the stadiums, and that's where a lot of the money is generated for these teams. There's WNBA games that they're not being sold out. Ticket prices are lower, and they're still not being sold out.
Yeah, I know.
And so it's like, where do you expect this money to come from? Once a point that you were saying earlier, it's like, no one, this was a quote that I was reading, no one should expect any women's sports league to have the following we see in the men's professional sports today. Men have been building that following for a long time, like anything. Right now, WNBA fans are just beginning to pass their fan preferences down to their children, right? So we're still in, for a lot of the women's sports, the first generation of that sport, whereas let's say for football, for example, like my parents, like this is just for me, my parents were Dallas Cowboys fans. If I wanted to follow with them, I could have been a Dallas Cowboy fan, and that because they would have passed that down for me, and it's just been around for that long.
But instead, he picked the loser Giants.
Let's go Giants, baby. So women's sports are still so young, and that is another factor into talking about why they aren't making as much. Yeah.
There's more.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I would like to discuss quickly, because part of the argument is that they're not asking for equal pay. They're asking for equal percentage. Okay, let's play with that now. Let's take a look at the last World Cup. The men's and the women's. The men's World Cup made $6 billion. That's with a B. Okay?
Yeah.
Their profit share of that, split between all the players, was $400 million.
Yeah.
For the Women's World Cup, first of all, per game, FIFA was handing out up to 10,000 free tickets just to make the stands look full. That didn't happen for the guys. There, it made 160 million as opposed to 6 billion. So their profit share was 30 million. Okay? They're kicking and screaming, why do they get 400 million? Why do we only get 30? Okay, first of all, you guys, the whole tournament didn't even make 400 million. So stop that nonsense. Now, but let's go with percentage because the argument there is that we wanted equal percentage, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. The men's percentage of the 6 billion was 7% of the profit. The women's percentage of 30 million was 23% of the profit. So if you want equal pay, equal profit, you might want to give back $20 million. That's what you might want to do, or stop talking about it. Because you don't want equal percentage. That's bullshit. You want the same amount as the guys are earning, and there's no way that that's ever going to happen. Because 6 billion to 160 million, are you kidding me? That's not even close.
Yeah. And like if you look at, so to keep the same World Cup example, for example, the average live viewership for the Women's World Cup in 2019 was 17.3 million people, which was up 100%, 106% more than the 2015 Women's World Cup. So they are growing. The final between them reached a live audience of 82.2 million, which is up 56% of the final from the 4 years prior. And in total, they consumed 2.49 billion hours of coverage across all platforms, a jump in almost 100%. As totals, these numbers are considerably smaller than for the men's game, but they are still growing a lot faster. So they are, like, the sport's growing, and that is a good sign for them. So for instance, 994 million people watched at least 1 minute of the 2019 World Cup on linear on television, 30% increase from 2015, while 3.26 billion watched a minute or more of the men's World Cup. So 30%, or that's 30% viewership towards the men, right? So that, like, the men's game is still so much higher. But if you look up the jump from, like, the 3.26 billion watched from the 2018 World Cup was only 2% higher than from 4 years prior. So the people are finding the women's sports, and I think we'll find that they'll start to be making more money. But like you said, the way the things are shared,
Now, is it feasible to say that for the men's game, they're practically capped out now? Like, I mean, how many more people can they get?
Yeah,
to watch?
right. They're
like they're basically here, where the other ones have got so much space to grow.
Yeah, and that's 60 years worth of growing that the men's had over the women.
Damn right it is.
So,
like, I mean, it's like you can't expect all this stuff to happen overnight, but you want it to, but you don't want to do anything about it. That is so awesome. Okay, now the other thing that I would like to talk about briefly, and again, this is going to be towards the feminists, because they seem to be defending it as opposed to being opposed to it. They are the ones saying, well, it should be equal pay, they're playing the same sport, and they're playing the same quality. As in, if they played against each other, it would be close.
Yeah.
Let's review this, shall we? Shall we just have a look at this? I think we should. Okay, so it's equal caliber. Again, I'm not picking on soccer, but there's some excellent examples here. Before last year's World Cup, the Australian women's team, ranked number 3 in the world, they had a match against a team of 15-year-old boys and lost 7-0. The American team, which was number 1 in the world, played a bunch of over 50-year-old retired soccer players and lost 12-0. Don't be telling me it's the same quality, same caliber. And if it is, then why is it that there is such a big deal if transgender people switch over to women's sports? If it's the same quality, the athletes are the same, they're equal, what's the difference?
Yeah, I think that's another thing that, upon doing research for this video, I came across that was a little bit frustrating, because you do hear a lot of the time, like the activists that are pushing for, the equal pay and stuff. And to use WNBA as an example, like, there's been multiple times where some of the star players have been interviewed or whatever, and they're talking about the game, and people have thrown out suggestions on how can we improve, like how can we improve the game? How can we make it more exciting for the fans to watch? How can we make the game more enticing to draw in more people, to ultimately generate more money for your league and for yourselves? And one of the big topics that some people bring up is dunking, for example. So how many dunks do you think were in the league from their start until 2018?
4.
I think it was a single digit number.
4.
So
I'm sticking with 4.
One of the suggestions is, why don't we
lower
the rim, half foot, instead of a 10-foot ring,
3 feet.
Have it at 9 feet, 9.5 feet, and bring dunking into the game, and have more dunks in the game, and people to draw that excitement, because I know the game isn't all about dunking, but a lot of the times the NBA players like Brianna Stewart, who's a big activist, and there's someone else I was watching. She was saying, they kind of got defensive, they shut down. It's like, well, I've been shooting on this rim for my whole career. It's gonna take me so long to adjust to it. Blah blah blah. It's like they're not they want to see the league grow, and they want all these good things to happen to them, but they're not willing to make any changes.
Of course not.
They're defensive, and they want to just expect it to be the same. When if you lower the rim, and you saw Angel Reese going in and dunk on freaking Caitlyn Clark while she's defending her, that'd be a highlight that SportsCenter would want to put on their top 10. It's just it.
Yeah. I actually I just want to hit this other point, and then I would like to explain how basketball is shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
Women's basketball. Getting back to the whole transgender thing, okay? I just want to state, I'm not for it at all.
Yeah.
I believe men play against men. Women play against women.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have to happen.
Well,
okay?
Yeah, there's a big activist. Riley Gaines is a really big activist on that. She was a U.S. swimmer in college. That got screwed out of a lot of different things because of one of the transgender athletes, and it isn't fair.
But it's
a number 400 ranked man can become the number 1 ranked woman.
Well, okay. There was this woman who was she was speaking to Congress in the States, and she said, for example, no man could beat Serena Williams playing tennis. The guy who was answering that said, or somebody said, Well, she actually did play a guy. She played the 203rd ranked man in the world and lost 6-love, 6-love. The 203rd, not even a top 10 guy, not even a top 100 guy, beat her 6-love, 6-love. The thing is that there is a big difference between endurance, strength, power, stuff like that. The men have more. That's all that there's to it. The men have more. That's why they have a faster game, a stronger game, and I'm sorry, but a more exciting game.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you brought up tennis is one of the one sports that actually is one of the. It's the one sport I think that has been distributing equal pay throughout since 2007. I think like the Wimbledon, it all comes down to, and one of the big arguments that we'll get into as well, like opportunity and stuff, like the coverage for men's and women's tennis is equal. When you have the tournament, they're covered. The stands are full for both. Like people treat it as one sport or like as one, like it's all one thing, right? So it's not like, oh, it's just the men's and the women's. So like tennis is cool, is really good for that. Like, but it's not just like they're doing it just to be, virtue signals or whatever. It's doing it because that's how the business works. Like there are equal amount of people attending the both men's and the women's games, so they're bringing in the same amount of money, and there's equal amount of coverage on TV, so it's being covered the same amount. So that's what gives you the equal pay is there's the people that are wanting to watch it equally.
See, and that's a point that I was going to also bring up. Like, if you look at basketball, hockey, soccer, things like that, there's men's over here and there's women's over here. If you've got tennis, a whole, championship tournament with both men and, women.
Yeah.
If you watch wrestling, there's men and women on the card. So people get to see both.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that's a good example though, because there's no way they're equally represented. The women's matches are exponentially shorter. Now they're getting better. But like they have way less time on the card. They're never hardly ever pushed in the main event.
But also you have to look at how the quality has improved.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm not denying that they have improved. And
okay,
that
not that long ago they were having lingerie matches and bloody pillow fights.
Yeah, no, okay, I recognize that.
Now they can actually fight.
But they're still in that developmental stage. They're nowhere near. They're on the same card, yeah, but it's not the same as the tennis tournament being the same. It's not the same coverage. It's nowhere near the same coverage. There's one women's match to 4 men's matches on every single pay-per-view card versus. But in the tennis, it's equal. The same tournament, same bracket.
But at least there are PLEs and pay-per-views where the main event now has been the women.
Yeah, but again, that's like 1 to 5 or 6.
But I'm just saying it's
growing. No, yeah, absolutely. No. But my point is you can't compare it to the tennis.
Okay, though. My point is because they're together on the same show, they're getting the exposure, so they're getting more popular, as opposed to having men's basketball here and women's basketball here.
Yes, absolutely. Okay? I get what you're saying there. Yeah.
That's the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah. And they are slowly they're getting more of the coverage per PLE
they got some
versus
great women wrestlers right now.
I know. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that at all.
I'd like to take some of them on. Okay, now this might get me in some trouble, but I really don't care. In the research that I have done, and this is all the stuff that's happening is starting to make sense to me, because the people who are complaining the most are the feminists, and it seems to be a problem, especially in the soccer and in the basketball, not so much in the hockey. They're actually smarter there. Let's talk about Caitlyn Clark and why the league has such a hate on for Caitlyn Clark. Okay, now, understanding, before I get to that, that if you have a star player in a league, most of the league is happy because that's drawing more viewers to the league, and everyone's going to make more cash. Example, what did Tiger Woods do for golf when it was dying? Wayne Gretzky for hockey. Joe Montana for football.
No. That's not an example.
Tom Brady almost killed it when he cheated, and that's why people watched.
Okay, anyways.
But Joe Montana saved it.
No, he didn't.
Okay, so
football was already the most popular sport, and he didn't do anything.
And he just made it bigger.
No, he didn't.
Now, anyways, if you have a big star and people want to watch, that will draw more cash. And that's what this Caitlyn Clark gal is doing. And from the information I found out, I did a lot of research last night. And I was disgusted. Because I found out what they say is the real reason that they can't stand her.
Why is that?
And there's actually two. Because she's a straight white female. In a predominantly black league. And that's what the problem is. And I'm thinking, okay, so it's okay if you're black to hate a white person, but if it's the other way around, you're being racist. As for the gay community, we have to be inclusive, we have to include everybody, except when it comes to them. If they have someone who's an outsider, they get to treat them like shit. Are you kidding me? You know what? That's a fucking joke.
I don't know if that's the main. I wouldn't say that that's like the main reason why.
It's a big part of it.
Some of the best players like in the league are white females, like Brianna Stewart.
But
Chelsea Plum.
Yeah, but she's the one getting all the attention. That's what the problem is.
Yeah, but that's
okay.
But I wouldn't say that the reason is because of her like race and sexual orientation. Like, I think,
do the research. It's everywhere. It's absolutely.
I follow a lot of it, and the white thing can definitely kind of be attributed to it. Like, I think there's a lot of jealousy, but I wouldn't say that that's like the predominant reason. They are getting petty. Like, it is a very unfortunate situation. They're being petty about it, but I think it's more just the jealousy of like all this attention that someone's getting
because she's white, not black. Yeah. It's playing a black person's game.
She's not getting the attention though because of her color though. Like, there's
dude,
you
I was checking
play,
stuff everywhere. I was watching all of stuff. That seems to be the predominant reason why. And if that's true, this is absolute stupidity because you know what? You're bitching and complaining about making equal pay. She can help you get that, and you want her gone. Seriously? No, I don't think so. Are we going to have dead silence now, or you want me to keep going?
No, I think, like, it's... Yeah. I don't agree with that, but I do think that, like...
It really is a big issue.
The media is always going to push the race issue, especially, like, there's the whole thing going back to her college days with her Angel Reese and the way that the stories were covered and how they covered Caitlyn versus how they covered Angel Reese and stuff like that. And it'll be pushed in that direction, but I don't think that, you know, that is the main thing to do with why I think it just comes down to just the general jealousy. Like, she's bringing all this attention to the league, and jealousy and stupidity. Like, they're not recognizing that her being the most popular female in the sport, or one of the most popular figures in basketball in general, is going to generate a lot of buzz around the league, and they're not seeing it that way. Like, these charter flights that they're getting, and you know, selling out big arenas and stuff. That's a lot to do with her.
And even with that. Now we're getting charter flights, and they're complaining about that. Well, it's not the same as the guys. Stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah, and like another story that came out recently was, you know, she obviously wasn't included on the U.S. Olympic team, which has a lot of people kind of upset about that. And The reasoning that they're saying is all weird. Like at first they were like, you know,
Because she's straight and white.
no,
Is that
she
why?
like they tried to double back down and be like, oh, she wasn't able to attend a lot of the training camps. They've been
That's horse shit.
and like they're trying to
need to,
and they're trying to put the 12 best players on the team. It's like it doesn't matter. They don't need the 12 best players. First of all, even if they put the second 12 best players, like 12 from 24, they would still dominate every game. Like it doesn't matter if they put, you know, it makes sense. They have a 41-year-old Diana Taurasi who's played in like 6 Olympics at this point. They have her on the team, and they don't have Caitlyn Clark, and it's like it becomes like it's almost like a political thing, and you know, like a lot of this like background
and see, and that gets me to another point. Glad you brought that up. By her being excluded from this team, okay?
Oh, I remember that.
It's just an example of this community of people bitching and complaining and getting what they want.
Yeah.
They wanted her off the team, okay? And they got it because they kept on going, and going. They don't care if she can help them with anything. They don't care. She's not part of our team, so we don't want her on our team.
Well, yeah. So the initial report of why she wasn't left out is because apparently the USA Basketball was concerned about how her fans would react with her having limited playing time. Because, like, although she is a very good player, if you were to put her on that team, she probably would be near the end of the bench. Like, she wouldn't be the number one player on the team. Popularity-wise, yeah. But, like, at this point in her career, she wouldn't be the best. And that's you can admit that. So apparently they were unsure about how her fans would react to her getting limited playing time, which they didn't think about the other side of the argument, which is, and I think Gilbert Arenas said this on his podcast, was like, now those people that were going to be upset about her not even playing aren't even going to watch.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a huge percentage of people that aren't even going to watch them play now.
Absolutely. I'm not.
Because she's not on the team.
I'm not.
And it's like, they didn't think about that. They didn't think that was, you know, like, we're actually going to lose all these people even watching the game.
You know and I know that they can say, oh, it's this. No, it's because the players in the league said, if she's on this team, we're not. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
She's it makes sense to have her on the team too, because she's going to be a young player that's going to be on for the next 10 years.
And this is where I get pissed off, because these people who are supposed to be equal to everybody, that's their whole thing, equality, except if we have to be equal. Screw that bullshit. They, in turn, will kick and scream and say, okay, well, if she's coming, none of us are playing.
Well, yeah, and that's another...
Okay? And that is absolutely the stupidest thing I have ever seen. And as long as they keep doing things like that, you will never, ever come close to making the same amount of money as men do, and nor should you.
Well, yeah, it's another good point to what we were talking about earlier with, like, you know, wanting more from the game, but not being open and receptive to the ways in which the game can actually grow and become more popular. And and so
they're absolutely shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is they know they're doing it and they don't give a shit, but they'll still demand the same pay.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a retarded argument, right? Like, if you want something, then you do something positive to make it happen. You don't keep on doing things negative and demanding until finally people say, you know what? Enough. I've given you enough. Screw you. I'm not giving you anything else.
Well, yeah. And so with equal pay, it becomes, you know, like a blanket statement for a lot of different things, and a lot of different nuances to the equal pay often get lumped in and forgot about or glossed over or just not really recognized. And one of those things does happen to be like opportunity. And so, you know, like they've stated multiple times, you know, we're not looking to make the same amount as LeBron James money wise. Like they recognize that, but they are looking, for more opportunity. And one of the biggest ways to grow sports, fan bases, audience, popularity is exposure, right? And obviously, the main avenue for exposure is TV time. And so I found some interesting stats too about that. And let me see if I can find this here, decipher through it, because I thought that was pretty interesting. Where was it? Okay, so ESPN dedicated more than 16,000 hours in 2019, I believe, across all of its platforms and partners to programming of women's sporting events. So that was up from 7,500, so more than double in 2015, and just 1,500 hours in 2010. That's crazy. In 2010, if you wanted to watch a women's sport on TV, you probably would be very hard pressed to find it. 1,500 hours of TV time.
Why would I want to watch women's sports in like 2010? Like, why would I even want to?
Well, see, that's the thing, right? It's like you wouldn't know to watch it because you wouldn't watch it, so you wouldn't know if you wanted to watch it or not.
But
You're just assuming.
But I have watched it lately. I watched some of the World Cup. I'm not wasting my time doing that again.
I genuinely love watching women's soccer. I think that the quality is different, but it's still very exciting to watch.
With so many mistakes, it was painful to watch.
No, the WNBA is painful to watch.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But you should have seen like the TV numbers for the college basketball. Like the women's tournament outshone the men's tournament this year.
But I do like to watch women's hockey. Even though it's a slower game, these gals still hit. They can still score.
Yeah.
Right? That one, I think that one, it'll actually grow faster than the basketball because they have a grip on reality and basketball doesn't.
Yeah. So 2019 CBS struck a deal to show 40 WNBA games, increasing by 60% from the previous year. So NBC in 2018 for the 2018 Winter Olympics, they showed 631 hours of coverage, and that was the first time that majority of the primetime airtime was devoted to the women's sports, and that's for the Olympics there. And so just looking at these numbers from 2010 to now to 2019, this is even outdated information. You can see just how large of a grow. Like you went from 1,500 hours to 16,000 in 10 years. So that number alone, TV time, you get more exposure, you get people watching the game. That's how you're going to grow the fan base. And
so that was just for the Olympics or overall?
That number was for the Olympics.
Okay, so I'm going to say that's because I have all the answers, even though I'm not Gen Z. If you notice the Olympics as opposed to other sports, the women are not bitching and complaining about equal airtime. They're just putting in the work
and putting on it
and putting on a great show.
Yeah.
Okay, they're earning that TV time as opposed to these other chicks. Yeah, I said it. Who aren't, but just expected handed over to them.
Yeah.
No. You know what? This is not how life works. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and even for the basketball, the NBA is like a subsidy. They do subsidize certain parts of the league, and so
I was going to bring that up too. Up until last year, okay. Now, okay, let's just do the equal pay and the equal everything else. Okay. NBA makes what? $10 billion a year? Eight in between 8 and 10.
Okay.
Right? Billion. For numerous years, they were pumping $12 million a year to keep the WNBA from going bankrupt. And you want the same pay? This league's going bankrupt because no one gives a shit about it. This league is making to $8 to $10 billion, and you want equal pay. You're delusional. Absolutely delusional.
Yeah.
Never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And again, I have to emphasize, this is not aimed at all women out there. There's a specific group. You know who you are. You know who they are.
Yeah. And like, it did, the group was mainly headed by,
feminists, you can say it.
The U.S. women's soccer team. And
yes,
you know
absolutely.
What? And you know what, though? The problem is that, to an extent, their arguments were completely valid, and there's a new law that passed. I don't know if it's I guess a federal law maybe.
I saw that.
The pay and prize money and stuff for both men and women gets split equally now. So 10% of all money goes to the U.S. Soccer Federation, and then the remaining 90% is split equal between the men and the women. So comparing the numbers, like it did become advantageous. Like I think the women were making like over 140 or 150,000 more per player than the men were making like 100,000 or less.
Yeah.
But if you look at the numbers for the women versus the men's soccer, like the women's team, so was this 2015? They brought in 63.4 million, and the men brought in 66.3 million, and that's pretty much equal. There's 3 million difference, and that's with like tickets being cheaper for the women and stuff. So they are bringing in more money than the men. And the problem that they were also having was the men would get paid for endorsements, and they would get paid for appearances, and they would get paid for this, where the women weren't getting any of that. And meanwhile, they're winning.
Who was the girl who had that overtime shot and she blew it? I can't remember her name.
Oh, Rapinoe.
She actually had $3 million in endorsements that she lost because of comments that she made.
Well, yeah, but that was afterwards. Like when this was going down in 2016, like before they changed the deal. Yeah. Now they're getting all that stuff, but before that they were winning World Cups and being successful, where the men were getting knocked out in the first round.
Yeah.
And not even being competitive, but they're making way more than the women. So like but now women across the world are trying to use that example as something to stand on, when that's a very nuanced situation and it's not like that everywhere else. Yeah, a lot of different arguments, a lot of stuff that is glossed over, and like I said, equal pay is a very blanket statement that from the outset, if you're looking at it society wise, obviously everybody wants everyone to feel equal, and everyone wants, and for certain human rights, everyone, for certain things in life, everyone should be treated equally. And unfortunately, that this case here is not one of those things that should just be treated automatically equal, just because
it's not got right.
Ultimately, these professional sports are businesses, and at the end of the day, the main goal is to generate money, and the more money you generate, the more money you're able to share, which is a interesting segue into a potential another video that we'll be talking about, which is about the general inflation in total sports, like sports contracts in general, how much players are making, but
outrageous.
Which Don seems to be on the opposite end of the argument for that one,
as usual,
for some reason.
For some reason,
as this one, you're on the opposite end of the argument. This one, you're like, yeah, it's a business. Players should be paid as much as they're deserving, and then for the other one, you're like, no. Actually, we'll leave it as a teaser.
Is not that at all. I'm saying in sports today, women should not be making equal pay as men because men are bringing in more money.
Yeah, but then in the next video, all that money that the men are bringing in, you don't think they deserve it.
Because they're not bringing in that much money.
Oh, see.
Right?
See,
now, and as for this equal pay and all of this other nonsense, you might want to keep this in mind as well. And that is, if you want equal pay and equal treatment, then you might want to be treating people in your league the same way that you expect to be treated. And the perfect example for that is Caitlyn Clark. You're treating her like shit because you think you can, but you, in turn, want everyone else to treat you as if you're as good as her. No. That doesn't fly.
Yeah. So there you have it, guys. There's our stance on equal pay in sports.
Is there any sports that you feel that the pay should be equal? Just off the top of your head.
No, because it's not whether I feel it should or not. Like it ultimately comes down. Every single sport is paying their players fairly in terms of what they're generating. Like we talked about with tennis. Tennis is generating the same amount of money.
Yes.
So they're getting paid. Ronda Rousey was one of the females that was very much like, you know what, I'm getting paid the big bucks because I'm generating the big box office tickets and I'm selling the big pay-per-views. She understood how the business works. She knew that she was the one that was bringing in the money, and that's why Dana was giving her the money. Yeah. Like it's not. Do I think the WNBA players should be paying more? Do I think the female women's team in soccer is deserving of the money that they're making?
No way.
To an extent, yes, I do, because of how well they're doing. I don't think that the deal worked favorably for the men, because I don't think the men should be penalized and be giving their earnings to the women just because. But I do think that they had a good argument to stand on, and I think that is a good example of getting paid, because they do put on exciting football, and they are one of the most dominant teams in the world. So
see,
they're getting paid in relativity to. Well, I guess not. They're not getting paid relatively to the amount that the World Cup's giving them. But
I think that was actually advantageous for the guys, because as an overall team, they were ranked here. The girls' team overall was ranked here. They were making more than the guys were, and now they're making the same amount. So it's
no, they weren't making more. They were making less. They were generating the same, if not equal.
There was actually, as of I think it was 2020, they were actually making more than the men's team was.
Yeah.
So now it's like
so
now it's
out.
even. So that's actually more advantageous for the guys.
Is that so? Yeah, equal pay in sports. It's all going to be like that, but
you know what? It's not going to happen in your lifetime or mine. It's not going to happen.
No, but we will see a lot of growth too. We've already witnessed it, and
absolutely
it'll be
see growth. But again, if the women conduct themselves accordingly, like if you want to be a bitch about it, then you're not going to get it. That's all there is to it.
Sometimes you have to be hard nosed though to get what you want.
Okay. Yes.
You have to be willing to put in the work as well.
Yes, I understand that you have to be that. Yes, but if you have, again, I'm on this whole Caitlyn Clark thing. If you got a star in your league and you want to treat her like trash because of two specific things, guess what? You're not going to make progress.
Yeah.
Okay? You better be treating her the way you want her to treat you. And right now, you're not doing that.
Yeah. So to wrap it up, if you want to see, if you're on the side of the fence with that you believe that women should be getting paid equal, then you know what, something that you're able to do is you need to start buying those tickets. You need to start going to those games. You need to start watching it on TV, and you got to start promoting it, because that's the way that it's going to grow, and it starts with you. So. That's what
and that's what the men do, and that's why the men's sports are where they are.
Yeah. So yeah, let a little bit of a controversial topic here today. If you guys, let us know what you think about what our stance is, what our opinions are. If you have a different opinion than us, or if you have some points that we missed, or some stats that you think are interesting or contribute to either this side or that side, make sure you leave them in the comments below. It's the first kind of video like this that we'll be doing. We do have another interesting one coming up in a couple weeks. Similar kind of styles. So let us know if you like these videos. We'll do more of them. We'll get more in depth into different sports related topics other than just the sports themselves. But yeah, once again, smash that like button. Make sure you hit subscribe and turn the notifications on for our next videos. We have Clash of the Castle predictions coming up soon. We've got some CFL content coming at you as well. So yeah, until next time, take care, guys.
Later.